General Kulkarni, Kari was a hardcore Lashkar-e-Taiba terrorist. He was involved in multiple terror strikes in the area. But losing 5 soldiers to eliminate 1 or 2 terrorists. Sir, in your appreciation, and I'm not talking about just the encounter that's taken place today, there have been multiple encounters in this belt where we've lost 5 special forces commandos. Last time, 5 soldiers killed in an ambush in May. Do commanders need to relook tactics in this region?
Gaurav, at the very outset, extremely sad. There's no denying the fact. Very heartrending. One feels very, very bad about it. But let me also come to the point to say that the area is very, very forested, firstly. Secondly, the visibility is very low. Thirdly, there are a whole lot of these, bakr balls and dhoks that are existing all over. Then there's a lot of pressure. Of course, there's a mix of population from both sides. There are Muslims, there are Hindus, sizable number of Muslims, 70% of them. There are a lot of scheduled tribes over there, about 40% of them. You have Riyasi district, about 44% is forested. You've seen Rajouri, very, very forested. Visibility is poor. They take on a vantage point. Now, this Kari, who is a Pakistani national, yet another Pakistani national who's there, they're trained into operating from caves, they're trained into operating into ID, they're trained into as snipers, being pushed in primarily, as you rightly said, south of Pir Panjal, both Rajouri, Poonch, Riyasi, all of these districts, which now see sudden spike. You find out of the 47 odd people who have lost their life, 15 of them of the security personnel lost in Rajouri itself. Out of the 121 that have lost in J&K, just about 27 in the entire J&K, 15 are in these just 3 districts, and maximum number of the security personnel that we have lost are in Rajouri district.
Yes.
Even in Riyasi district, we seem to have under control. Even in Poonch, it's under control. But Rajouri, a sizable number we've lost, primarily because of the forested region. And once you get these kind of information, you know there it is. What we now need to see is, earlier also somebody lured them and there was a contact that took place. This time also that there is one nomad who was supposedly being beaten up, who refused to give them food. They were seen to be with somebody wanting to have food. Then they went there. So there were inputs coming to it, and inputs and all these areas generally, as the tradition goes in the Indian Army, people lead from the front. They are there. It is not that they ought to be in front, but they're all there. They're young officers taking them.
So you can be lured once, you can be lured twice. You need to change your tactics if you're lured again and again and again. And if Indian Army officers lead from the front, then they need to relook their strategy, perhaps send in more drones, use more technology. Why is there pressure? There is no pressure from the country. I hope there's no pressure from commanders for soldiers to finish operations fast. Wait it out. Let the terrorists starve to death.
Gaurav, definitely. There is no pressure. Absolutely. Now I can tell you with certainty, now having become a veteran, there are no pressures whatsoever. The desire to eliminate them. They're just two of them. This contact must have been there for last 3-4 days. They would have been in contact with them. Yes, if wished to, rather than once you know that there is someone, you use all technology, drone, whatever, but the weather doesn't permit sometimes. Sometimes there's so many other difficulties that are cropping up. Plus, once these terrorists
starving to death, time is on our side, our country, our people, unless commanders put unnecessary pressure on soldiers on ground.
Yeah, Gaurav, definitely. All these things would have been taken care of, starving to death. Obviously, how much of logistics would they be having? 5 days, 10 days, 15 days, 21 days, maybe 1 month at the most. How much will they last? It's not that it can't be done. It can always be done. Starve them to death, ensure that the logistics is totally cut off. But at night and things of those kind, despite all the night vision devices that you may have to be able to track all of them, but once you occupy heights in these forested areas from where you can see and people have to climb, it's not easy. So you're climbing up and they are watching you from top, what's going on down below. And day, night, for days on and day, the operations are on. And even this counter-terrorist operations that were launched primarily to flush out all these because to prevent infiltration. Like I understand the Army Commander also recently had said that there are about 200 of these people waiting in the launch pad to be wanting to get infiltrated into India. There's a lot of pressure. The pressure is of
kill them at the launch pads. I mean, what can that terrorist country do that the terrorist country in your neighborhood is not doing already? If there are 200 terrorists in those launch pads, kill them in the launch pads.
those attempts are being made. Those attempts are being made, Gaurav, to knock
What's
them
the
off
point of a
at
ceasefire
the
which is
launch
killing
pad
our
itself.
people? Because I also want to understand from you, that this terrorist has been active in this area for the past 1 year is what inputs seem to indicate. Whatever happened to
Yes.
the army commanders and these are commanders at various levels, whether it's the CU or the brigade commander or the div commander, we were told all along that a shelf life of a terrorist is 3 months, on the outside, maximum 6 months. How was this terrorist alive for 1 year?
See, if you notice, for the last so many years, south of Pir Panjal, the activities have been low. But after the abrogation of Article 370, you suddenly find that probably to draw attention, everything is now moved towards Jammu, Rajouri, Poonch, Riyasi. These are the districts that have been targeted. And therefore, there has been counter-terrorist operations that are launched to ensure there's a... But the area is really very forested. It's very easy. I have operated in these areas. I know what it means. It's so very difficult. Thickly forested areas, visibility is extremely low, weather conditions are bad, sometimes even the fog, mist, you can't see nothing whatsoever there. Anyone who's occupying heights has an advantage of seeing what it is. Yes, it is, one can say, starve them, don't go around, but then once you have inputs of certain terrorists hiding in areas, and when you're surrounded in counter search operations, totally surrounded from all sides, the tendency is always to knock off, and once the firing starts, then there is no way. You're not going to break that contact, because once the fighting has started, once the terrorist has opened fire on you and you surrounded him, now you have to eliminate him. You can't say, well, starve him or do anything like that, because it is very difficult, extremely difficult. I know it is very easy for us over here to say that, but over there for these youngsters who are in operations over there, it's very, very difficult.
Sir, for all of us, for you,
Gaurav,
for me, for the rest of our country, the lives of our soldiers far more precious than any Pakistani scum that comes into our country.
100%.
Sir,
100%.
but
Gaurav,
5 terrorists killed in an ambush in April, and that happened on the road. And these terrorists were filming it, quite the way the Hamas terrorists were filming the terror attack in Israel. So these terrorists, Lashkar-e-Taiba, Jaish-e-Mohammed terrorists were filming it in April. Again, we lost 5 Special Forces commandos in the month of May. Sir, with such an experienced chain of command, whether it's the brigade commanders, the div commanders, the corps commander, the army commander, clearly something needs to be done to ensure that these incidents don't keep happening every couple of months in the past 2 years, sir.
See, Gaurav, let's look at the flip side of it. The very fact that their contacts are taking place, the very fact that the people are aware of what's going on, unless you search and destroy them, how else? They will continue to be there. They'll continue to, harass the villagers over there. Almost over 90% of the population of Rajouri is rural population. It's connected to that Kalidhar, Kotidhar. It's on that old Mughal route coming there from Pakistan into India. So there are a lot of other things that are there. But believe you me, there is not one man, right from the army commander down to the company commander, the platoon commander, there would be all the life. See, saving one's own life and killing that of the militant is the most important thing. You see, overall, if you see it in the context of J&K, 121 people have lost their life. How many of the security force? About 27 security personnel, and over 83 of these terrorists have lost their lives this year alone. So there is, but yes, there are certain areas, especially what you just said, south of Pir Panjal, because of the wide valleys, the forested regions over there, visibility is very low, the heights are there, extremely, extremely difficult, plus the logistic support being provided by the villagers. That is something we really need to look into.
General, is there a mishmash that some soldiers, some troops had to be moved to the LAC, when tension escalated in the LAC with China, there were gaps. Those gaps in some instances were filled by CAPFs, the Central Armed Police Forces. So in some areas there's the army, in some areas there are CAPFs. And is that leading to lack of coordination or gaps that terrorists are exploiting?
See, a certain amount of, yes, a little bit of readjustments have taken place, but that would not affect it. Over here, this operation itself, you have the army, you have the special forces, you have the RR over there, you have the CRPF over there, you have the police over there. So there is quite synergy in the kind of operations being conducted. The very fact that inputs are coming, the very fact that the search and cordon operations are taking place, they are being cordoned off. There are days on which operations are going on. But yes, I do agree there is no harm in relooking as to why such a thing has happened. That's not but yes, we must not lose life. But at the same time, we must also remember that whenever such coordinate search operations take place, when the young officers are leading from the front, they're all there. The contact
soldiers are priceless. Just can't afford to lose our soldiers, especially to these Pakistani scum that come into our country. These terrorists. I mean, it's just, you're just unable to accept. But for joining me here on this India Today special, General, many thanks.